Hello, everyone, and welcome. The Mental Health Warriors are on once again. I am going to be joined today by Travis Simpkins again, and hopefully we'll be able to finish our conversation today. In the event he's unable to appear because he didn't confirm with me today, I'm going to have a backup plan, which is topics across the board. I've got several wonderful books that I've read and haven't read, and I'm just going to share enlightened information with you about things you can do for your self-care. So I hope you have your beverage of choice, and we'll join back in just a few moments after a few moments after I play the intro. And I'm back. Travis hasn't joined me yet. Hopefully he will. In the event he doesn't, I'm just going to do what I said I was going to do earlier when I started before the intro, which is share a lot of enlightened information about self-care, about ending the stigma around mental illness, bringing awareness into our homes, into our work, into our own awareness, basically. So I want to start off with sharing our next guest, which I'm going to have on October the 25th. I don't have one for in 2 weeks' time yet, but I hopefully will have. If you're interested in watching this now and would like to come on and share your story, by all means, just message me on Facebook, look me up, and I will respond back to you in kind. So I wanted to start first with explaining the things that I do every day for looking after my own mental health. So my normal morning day looks like this. I normally wake up between 6 and 6:30, and I find that the best thing to do is have my cup of coffee. Sit in a quiet room, which is the kitchen, and I play cards a bit. Then, after playing cards, I read. I always read something that's inspiring or fun or funny. And then sometimes my mood shifts and I want to read Stephen King. He's my favorite author. So, after that, I do meditation, prepare a wonderful, healthy breakfast. And after that, I'll come out to the greenhouse and sit and just take in the fresh air of the morning. And hi, believe in yourself. How are you? What's your first name? I'm doing well, thank you. And so, one of the things I think a lot of people struggle about with their mental health, whether you have depression or severe anxiety or struggling with bipolar, um, borderline personality disorder, etc. And I find that if you don't have a morning and evening routine, your day starts out like totally out of balance. So, one of the greatest tools I ever used with my mental health was to start a morning and evening routine. I'm not so successful yet with my evening routine, but because I have my morning routine in place and it's been there for quite a while. Hi, how are you doing, Robert? It's good to hear from you. I'm glad you joined me. Because I have my morning routine, it sets the tone for the day. And it's absolutely changed my mental health because I recognize that if my day starts out where I have negative thinking, I shift it immediately into more positive. And if I notice I'm suffering with anxiety, I will then take some really good deep breaths. The meditation will also bring me out of my anxiety. And this doesn't matter what mental illness you're struggling with. You can use meditation and all these other self-care methods to help you every day to improve whatever illness you're struggling with. It's also applied when, you have an illness where, say, you broke your leg and you're bedbound. If you're doing meditation and reading and focusing on being positive, your healing will come along faster. So I'm going to read some of Robert's posts here and enlighten people. Yes, Robert says he goes for walks. Absolutely amazing. Right now, I cannot do a whole lot of walking because I'm suffering with a foot problem, but that is awesome for your mental health. Walks out in fresh air, in nature, even if you can get into a forest, even better. He says he starts his day with bathrobe moments, 9 a.m. Eastern, Monday to Friday. I'll have to check that out. Thank you for sharing that, Robert. So that's the morning that I usually have. And I want to share also a daily teaching with you. So I'm going to go through a few books, and maybe, Robert, you can give me some feedback on what kind of books you use as well. So this one is called The Secret, and it's daily teachings. So I'm just going to randomly open it, and I'm going to share with you. Let's see, right here. Okay. You have the power to transform negative change into positive, but you cannot do it by resisting the change. Oh God, don't I know that? Resisting the change is choosing the negative path. You are focusing on the negative, which brings with it even more negativity, pain, and misery. And that is so true when it comes to our mental health. To transform the negative into positive, first look for the good and positive things in the situation. Now, sometimes that can be really hard if we're thinking that the entire situation is negative, but I can give you some examples. There is a good in every single situation, and as you look for the good things, the law of attraction must present them to you. Additionally, command that this change will bring unlimited good and positivity. And know and believe in your heart that as you command it, it must be done. This is choosing the positive path. Robert, getting up at 5, I used to do that. It was killing me. But I want to get back to that because there's a lot of studies saying that if you get up really early and have all that peaceful, quiet time before you start your day, it really sets your mood. But 6 o'clock has seemed to be the key for me. Okay, transforming our negative thoughts into more positive ones. A good example of that would have been for me. I had an experience with my family where I had to settle a disagreement, and the negative thoughts that they were experiencing were causing me to have anxiety. But the good thing about what I thought about while that was happening was, what can I do to help these people, right? How do I bring my light, my awareness into their argument, discussion, whatever you want to call it, so that my fear is lifted, my anxiety is lifted. So it was sort of like coming through a door, dragging my tools and giving them without any delay, and shared that with them so that I could help them get grounded, help them focus on what was important, what each one was trying to say, and the message that they were trying to get across to one another. And taking my knowledge was the positive thing, and giving it away was the best thing that I could do from any negative thinking, instead of thinking, oh my God, they're fighting. Oh my God, I'm feeling fear. I'm feeling anxiety. Instead, I relied on my self-confidence and applied the tools I needed to help them get through what they were going through. So that's an example of that daily teaching. The next book I want to talk to you about is, I read this a very, very long time ago. And in this book, it's all about codependency. It's called Reclaiming Yourself, the Codependence Recovery Plan. Okay, so this is the book. I'm going to show it to everyone, because that way, if something that really catches your attention, go out and order it and do it. I did this book from front to back. I've done a lot of these books because codependent causes a lot of things which stunt you from changing and growing. And struggling with post-traumatic stress disorder, part of the symptoms that I had was codependency. So I'm going to randomly open this one and see. Oh, it took me to chapter 8, and it's called A Plan for Recovery. And the end of all our exploring will be arrive where we started and know the place for the first time. That's by T.S. Eliot. So in this chapter, he's going over a recovery program to use as a map to guide you on your personal adventure of recovery. And he points out landmarks about proceeding in the right direction, warning you of pitfalls, describes some experiences you might have along the way. And he says, recovery from codependence means getting back in touch with your inner self, which is unique. Your journey of recovery will of necessity be unique too. So he lists 4 things which is in this plan for recovery. Okay, so when I did my plan for recovery from post-traumatic stress disorder, part of the plan was having these kind of books to learn from. And mental illness really needs you to work on yourself, not just with your therapist, not just with your doctor. It's personal, in-depth work on healing yourself. So the first step he talks about is willingness to experience change, a desire for truth and reality. Oh, that's a big one. Openness and commitment. So the full thing is willingness to experience change, being open to new concepts, behaviors, attitudes, and people. Now, that can be really scary for a codependent. A desire for truth and reality, a willingness to look at what is rather than seeing what you want to see or imagine to be true. That is huge when it comes to having post-traumatic stress disorder, any mental illness. We have a desire. I remember I always had a desire to be a victim, and I always had a desire to hold on to things that were harmful to myself. 3 was openness to your inner world of feelings and experiences. Beautiful, a beautiful work I did with that. Commitment to the process, perseverance, or not giving up when things aren't easy. And that's a tough one, because it's so easy to throw in the towel when we come up against something that's so super challenging and totally out of our comfort zone. So mental health requires, and the ending of the stigma of mental illness requires us to work on ourselves. So that's in this book here. Anytime you want some more information on these books, just message and let me know. Okay. Speaking of comfort zone, I did open a book that does talk about that. And let me see if I can find it. So that one was about bullying. Can't remember which one it was. Okay, I'll move on to the next one. But just to briefly talk about the comfort zone. Let's see. You seem to be in a really good mood. Hey, Robert, I'm glad you're here. author that I really enjoyed reading was John C. Maxwell. He had a book called Make Your Dreams Come True, I think it's called. I have it, but I didn't have it with me for the podcast. This one is called Make Today Count. The secret of your success is determined by your daily agenda. Okay, so it's this one here. Okay. He says, how can you know if you're making the most of today so you can have a better tomorrow? So this is a compact, hands-on guide offering daily disciplines that give you maximum impact in minimal time. There's 12 impacting decisions, and they will empower you and clarify your priorities to lead a more successful and fulfilling life. Learn how to control how your day goes, your creativity, your thinking, and improving and building relationships and nurturing your person. So, a lot of these self-help books. Hi, Adam. How you doing? A lot of these self-help books I discovered, I think there's a stigma around self-help books. I'm not sure. I would love some feedback. It would make a great show to have a panel of people to talk about these things. But I think there's a stigma on self-help books because it requires you to put in the effort. You have to put in the work. 2, you got to connect with the author. And I think a lot of things happen is that mental health issues, mental health illnesses, I don't know how much people encourage, like the therapists and the doctors and that. I know from only my own experience was I didn't get that kind of feedback when I was going through what I was going through. I didn't get any talks about the stigma around how I used to think about my own mental illness. I didn't get that kind of feedback. I didn't get any feedback from doctors and therapists saying, go out and learn to love yourself. Go out and pick up self-help books. I didn't get that kind of feedback. And that's why I'm sharing that with you today. It is the most important thing, I think, is your own self-discovery. Robert says there is a stigma, but you often. So this is what Robert's sharing. He says there is a stigma, but you often are hearing about this from people that want to sell you tickets to their events. Oh, that's a good conversation to have. So if you know that someone is being stigmatized about getting their self-care, say, for example, someone has bipolar or borderline personality disorder, they immediately get this label on them that they have an illness, but that's not who they are. Okay, so let's make today count. Read something from John Maxwell's book, and see if it connects to what I'm talking about. This one is interesting. It says, find a process that works for you. Everybody has a different way of approaching the process of thinking. Okay, here he's talking about writing, staring out the window at a tower and something blocking his view, and something to refresh himself to stimulate his thinking. He would stimulate himself by the smell of rotting apples. I don't know, that might trigger somebody. He goes on here to talk about the need of a purring cat, orange peel, all these different things that he needed to do to write. I don't need anything specific to trigger my thinking. Some people need music. Some think best while at a computer. So he says, do whatever works best for you. So what works best for me when it comes to making my day count, to not worry about all the stigmas out there. I do journal, and what encourages me, well, if I had a cat, that would encourage me because I love that. And one of the biggest encouragements I have is coming out to the greenhouse and doing artwork with people, um, doing readings for people. So do what works best for you, I think was the bottom line in this message today. To make today count, do what works best for you. So don't let anybody else dictate how you think you need to help yourself with your mental illness. Yes, get feedback from lots of people. Get feedback from your doctors. Get feedback from videos you're watching on mental health issues like this one. Get feedback from family, friends. But at the end of the day, you have to take what you need, leave the rest, and move forward with what works best for you. So if a friend says, hey, go try Reiki, maybe that'll help you. Or, hey, go try float tank, and there could be a million things that it works best for you. And only you know what that is. Okay, so moving on. I guess I'm only going to make the show a half hour because I don't want to go into too much in depth because there might be feedback about the books that I share that you might want to discuss with me later. So I'm going to talk about the latest book I've been reading, because when we focus too much on that we're in our anxiety and depression and focused on that we're being judged and ridiculed, or we're feeling resentment or anger, we step into a place of fear. Okay, so this one is called The End of Fear. It's a spiritual path for realists. And this book is all about vulnerability. Now, I'm sure I've talked to people before about being vulnerable. And when you have a mental illness, you can be very vulnerable to circumstances, things people say and do. But vulnerability has a space inside of us that is necessary. And I'm talking from my own experiences of allowing myself to take risks in life. One of them was starting the Power Hour Self-Care, and also opening my greenhouse, putting myself out there as a light worker, as a healer, as a person with experience to mentor others on their journey of self-love. That's putting yourself out there to be vulnerable. But it's also taking yourself, for example, if you're housebound, you have a fear of, I'm not sure of the terminology, pardon my ignorance, but when you're housebound and you're afraid to leave your home, okay? And that is putting yourself to be really vulnerable, to step out that door. And it takes a lot of love from others to support you in that. I remember when I couldn't go to social events, I didn't have crippling anxiety that made me housebound, but it was to the point where I didn't want to socialize with people. I was afraid of what people would say to me, about me, how I looked, how I felt. It was, I'm going to stay home because I don't need this anxiety. It was easier to stay hidden. But eventually, it was more painful to stay in bed depressed than it was to make myself take that first step, put go outside just for a short walk, take in some fresh air, go to the mall, and then eventually make an appointment with a friend, and then eventually go out to a club. It was gradual, it was slow, but it was necessary. Now I have an amazing life. I allowed myself to be vulnerable. I took chances, I took risks, and I went for it. And my PTSD is basically a thing of the past. There are very few things that make me feel like I'm not in control and I'm not in charge of my life. Oh, Robert, you're wonderful. Thank you. I can't. Agoraphobia. Agagnophobia is a type of, here, I'm going to put it up because I'm not very good at this, is a type of anxiety disorder. Involves fearing and avoiding places or situations that might cause panic and feelings of being trapped and helpless. Exactly. Exactly. Thank you so much for that, Robert. That is somebody I would love to have on the show. Now, I hope you wouldn't feel trapped on my show. You could always hang up. But if you're out there, I would love to have you on my show. And this is how our community works. The Mental Health Warriors has people like our viewer, Robert, who comes on here and helps me out because I don't know it all. The only thing I know is I don't know. Anyhow, I have a few more minutes. Oh, Robert, yes. Okay, we're going to talk. I would love to have you come on for my next show. The next book I'm going to share with you, and I think will probably be my final show because I'm going to only do half an hour here, is, I think I've shown this with people before, is Feel the Fear. It's really, the book is called Feel the Fear and Do It Anyway, but this is the second of her series, and she goes and beyond. So it's an actual workbook about working on your fears. This book is the bomb. I got to tell you, if you're struggling with any type of mental illness, you have fear. So if you work on yourself, I suggest don't start with this book. Start by learning Feel the Fear and Do It Anyway. Now, just as a side note, do it anyway doesn't mean to go out and do something that's dangerous for yourself. This is not what that's encouraging. What this is encouraging is to feel your emotions of fear, learn why they're there, and how to eradicate them. Okay. It is incredible work. Susan Jeffers helped change my life. And she works with a very specific model. Incredible teacher. I can't say enough about her. The one thing I really, really, really love is the grid of life. And in the grid of life, it shows you the areas that you need to have more or less in balance. And she calls her grid to fear less, right? You're not going to eradicate fear 100%, but you can learn to fear less. Robert's saying to go out and do something dangerous to your loneliness. I'm not quite sure what you mean, Robert. We can talk about that when you come on the show. So anyway, she outlines these 9 areas. I'm going to share them with you, and then I'll say my goodbyes. And if you ever want to learn more about this and need a teacher, I'm here for you. 1, personal growth. 2, relationships. 3, career. 4, family. 5, spiritual growth. 6 is friends. 7 is contribution. 8 is alone time. And 9 is leisure. Go get this book. If you're struggling with any type of mental illness, read this book. I highly, highly encourage it. Go out and be social, Robert says. I want to thank you for watching today. I hope some of these books have helped you. I'm going to do little half-hour shows every so often to educate you more. Come on, be a guest, and enjoy learning to help me end the stigma, educate each other on mental health, bring awareness. And speaking of awareness, October 10th is World Mental Health Day. Please go out and support somebody somewhere, raise money for mental health. And if you don't like giving money to mental health organizations, I still encourage people to do that because they are necessary. Find a local charity that gives back to their community. Okay? Myself included. So have a wonderful day. And I look forward to having my next show, which will be on, where's my calendar? My next show is the 11th of October. Okay, if you'd like to be a guest, Robert, on October the 11th, I'm going to message you and we'll talk. Take care. Namaste, stay well, and lots of self-care.